We kept seeing the operational environment for civil society being constrained by laws, rules, regulations, institutions that were set up to comply with the FATF recommendation framework. Recommendation 8 was a product of its time, and it was sort of formulated post 9/11 in 2001. It stated that all NPOs were particularly vulnerable to terrorism financing abuse, and that countries needed to put in place laws, rules and regulations to combat the potential abuse of nonprofits for terrorism financing abuse. But that sort of very broad definition led to a lot of unintended consequences, sometimes even intended consequences, which is why the recommendation has been changed multiple times. And this time the changes are clearer. It calls for the risk-based approach as usual, calls for the focused, proportionate approach to regulation of the sector. But more importantly, it says do no harm. NPOs come in all shapes and sizes, right? It is not a homogeneous sector. You have small voluntary organizations, 2-member, 3-member. You have the large NPOs that you think of when you say an NGO, and everything in between. But if you have rules and regulations that stipulate, I'll give you an example. In one country that we were working in, they said every NPO, every registered NPO needs to do an audit, and that audit costs sort of $500, say, and then the income of more than 75% of the NPOs in that country was less than $500. So that is a disproportionate sort of rule and regulation. So that's what I think the FATF means by saying that what you put in place to oversee the sector for this particular type of illicit financial flow, which is terrorism financing, needs to be focused and proportionate. Focused on the risk that the country faces and the sector faces, and proportionate to the nature of the sector, the size of the sector, etc. EU Global Facility is one of the few technical assistance providers that actually centers this issue, the issue of Recommendation 8 and civic freedoms and human rights and the fundamental freedoms in the technical assistance it provides.